This meeting to order, please. Need a roll call of attendance.
Done.
Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Do you want something to
Discussion.
say? Any discussion on the agenda?
I wanted to move to amend the agenda and remove action item 5B, the legislative resolutions.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? So we vote on the amendment? All those in favor of the amended adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any additional names? Okay. Discussion items tonight, changing the day of the week.
Yes, and so this is a topic that came up at our last study session. I think that's right. We talked about the fact that on the having our meetings on a Thursday interferes with a number of events that are sponsored by MSBA, and that quite a few other districts have their board meetings on Mondays and Tuesday nights. And so we talked about having this as a discussion for next year.
I have a comment when you're ready, sorry.
So that's going to be part one, and then I'm going to throw in part two, and that is, right now we have our study sessions for the second meeting, and our regular, the first meeting, and I want to also throw in the possibility that we might want to flip those, and our directors that are here right now are going to maybe talk a little bit about that too, about why that might be an option for us as well. So, but let's start with the day of the week. And we have, I know that, so Lucy's just said that she has some items, and I know that Kevin has some input on that as well, so.
Well, let's hear it. A motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's just a discussion.
It's a discussion item.
Oh, right, because we're just in
gonna talk about
study session.
All right. Discussion.
Sorry, I just
Who wants to
started going.
discuss it?
Discuss.
So part of this came up because remember the MSBA advocacy session was on a Thursday night, and the MSBA board was shocked we were meeting on a Thursday night. They're like, don't you meet on Monday or Tuesday? And since then, I did correspond with Mike Pachacek at Stillwater Board, because they also meet on Thursdays, trying to get some history of why in this part of the metro area we meet on Thursdays. They had none. He didn't know why either, but I know Stillwater Board tonight, right now, this very same time, is having the same discussion about moving their meetings to Monday or Tuesday also. So, just a little context.
And Kevin?
I am not opposed to moving the meeting from Thursday to another. I've kind of built my schedule. My primary employer is MAIF, and so we have Monday night meetings the third Monday, so I think that would escape. If we're going a 2-4 thing, that would probably eliminate that. But I also am on the board for the Lake Links group, and what was the other one I had? Magi. Matamidi Area Green Initiative also meets on Mondays. So that's the first Monday. And so first, second, and third currently for me have meetings at 7 o'clock. So that's my input. So if we were Monday or Tuesday, my preference, of course, would be, based on what I've just said, Tuesday. Monday would be challenging.
Others?
I'll also offer for you, I did look at our activities calendar. We do have a lot, we have quite a few sporting events, competitions on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Concerts typically tend to be Mondays. There was a Tuesday here and there, but a lot of Mondays, and plays on the weekends. And so I'll just throw those out there because those tend to be high interest items as well, and so depending on where you need to be. The other thing I noticed where we often have conferences on Thursdays, right? And so that's an issue as well. So there you go. Those are all those items that you might want to consider in your.
And I mean, along with Kevin, if we're going to go into the personal schedules where I teach class every Tuesday night. And so we'd have to upset the whole St. Thomas schedule, which we can do because their state statute says they have to release me from work to come to a board meeting. So any work conflicts, they have to release you. There is state statute that says that. I have to look up the exact statute. So there's going to be conflicts no matter where we move it, if we decide to move it.
Which makes the case for keeping it where it is, because all our lives rotate around
It's been
Thursdays.
built
Right.
around Thursdays.
But I'm also concerned, I mean, we are missing, those of us who have kids, are missing conferences. You know, we are missing opening nights of plays and other, some sporting events and things like that too. So,
Which happens on other days of the week.
right. I mean, there is no perfect night.
And then the other question I have is on if the decision to move is based solely on the MSBA piece, or is a big chunk of the decision. We've worked the January meeting so that we can escape that and everybody can go to the leadership. We just do an alternate Thursday. So then, the only other thing that I know is conflict was what we just had was the advocacy tour piece. And maybe we look at if that's where they do one Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't know about Friday, in different geographic locations. I have in the past, I've actually gone up to, I don't know where it was, Rush City or somewhere up at that neck of the woods to attend one because there was a conflict. So, maybe there's something we could do with our modifying the schedule to say, okay, in September, we want to do this, so let's change by one day one of the meetings.
So, repeating what was said earlier, though, it is MSBA and conferences and plays, and, so it's not only MSBA, so I just want to make that clear.
But it sounds as if we have things on many of the nights, right? So,
So you're saying you don't want to switch? Your
I'm
preference?
opposed to switching. I hate to give up two really, pretty good community things that I've been involved with for a while. I would have to just say, hey, I'm off the Lake Links Board of Directors. Hey, Magi, I'm never going to come see you guys again, which I think is an important part of our community. So we all can do this. We
Right.
can all come up with those
We all have
things.
things.
Right, we all have other things.
Stacy, how about you? What are you thinking?
I can see that I have conflicts with all of them, and so just, I guess I'm torn. I'm not for moving it, and I'm not opposed to moving it, which sounds not very decisive, but I have pros and cons for all those nights. So I honestly feel like if there's a majority that feels strongly about it, I won't have an issue either way. I just don't have a strong opinion.
Julie, how about you?
So it was me that really brought it up, and I feel like Thursday night is one of the heaviest load nights of school activities that I feel like I miss all this stuff for my kids. Conferences I missed all through high school with my first daughter and first year and a half of second daughter.
And of course, you can miss school board meetings for those things, and nobody would fault you for it.
I know.
But
I know.
I'm not sure I'm hearing any real solid consensus here about, I personally would, I would change if everybody strongly wanted to do it. We've had Thursdays now for the last 47 years.
That's what it's been the whole time you've been on the board?
I can't remember when it wasn't on Thursday. You have to look at a historical perspective.
I only remember Thursdays, but I'm a short-termer.
It has been Thursdays forever, and the community knows it's Thursdays and, blah, blah, blah. I would prefer personally to keep it Thursday, and we could discuss changing study session versus regular session in terms of which one, but my preference, if I were picking tonight, would be to keep it on Thursday. Our lives have revolved around Thursdays for so long.
Going back to your comment, though, that you can miss a board meeting to attend conferences, which is absolutely 100% true, right? But now you've got to figure there are 3 of us who have high schoolers on the board right now.
Well, some can go to the morning conferences and some can
There are no morning conferences in high school. It's only in the evenings. And
It's just one Thursday?
In the spring, I think it's only one Thursday.
Maybe we handle conference night like we do with the special session for MSBA. You know, we know in January when it is, we adjust our schedule. And
The high school schedule them on a night that we're not having a school board meeting?
We set the calendar, Stacy. We set the district calendar that tells us when conferences are.
And I'm just telling you, I served
Why
on the...
can't we fix that in future years?
Apparently, it's very complicated.
Oh, because I'm not on
The
that.
calendar is a good committee not to be on.
I've heard.
Yeah, I was gonna-
Hard to change.
I served on the calendar committee.
I know you did.
It's just not one you want. It's tough. It's tough, I'll just say that. Because there's so many things that drive it. I mean, testing, trying to bounce between testing is, I don't know how many days that is, but it's a lot, and then prepping for the tests.
And we approved,
Evening out the corners
Yeah.
and when the logical times to have conferences.
and we approved the dropping for teacher, what is it called? Not teacher in service, what is it called? Teacher,
The staff.
staff development. Staff development days was one of those Fridays, Friday mornings or
And there
something.
tends to be a lot of, things that we have to go to as professional organizations that happen Thursday and Friday. And there's times then that, we may be out, but some of them are Monday and Tuesday too. So I guess it's
But whenever I've looked at committee meetings, I get the biggest turnout from families and parents in the community on a Monday versus any other day of the week. So that was just something from trial and error of different meeting times. Monday, I seem to get more families coming to different meetings.
Well, we could change our Thursday meetings when there's school conferences, especially for high school conferences right now, since there are 3 people with kids. We could change those meetings that week and just plan it in the calendar for the year and just know it. Would that be a reasonable, that's a real driver for wanting to change the date?
For me, and as far as reversing, study session versus,
I don't care.
that's totally fine.
Well, and so this was a conversation really that Bill and I had in particular because so today we have a study session and we also have some action items. So if we could make it so a study session had no action items, that would be preferable so that we could have a real business meeting and a study session meeting. We could also be maybe more flexible than with our study sessions as well, especially around these conflicts. And so in talking with Bill a little bit about that, I asked him to maybe just speak to what are some, because obviously there's some deadlines that he has to hit in terms of asking for action and being able to review things ahead of time. So could you even comment on that a little bit?
Yep, and I'll, holy cow, September, December, April and June would be a couple of months that would be applicable. So September, because it's all fresh on our minds, so we are required by statute to approve the preliminary levy by September 30th. It is often helpful to weigh through the details. Let's say if it was a significant percentage change, and we wanted to have a study session to weigh through the ins and outs of the individual line items, that it would probably be easier done at a study session if it was the first meeting of the month, and then the regular meeting to take action on what the board had seen previously. And there's a number of items like that. In December, when we talk about the revised budget, it would be helpful to weigh through the details in study session and then come back 2 weeks later with a similar product after you've already seen it. There's just a number of items that I am uncomfortable bringing the board to approve before we've worked through the details of it. And I realize that some of those details can be worked through at the Finance Committee and at other groups, but there's just a lot of meat to some of these things, and it would be nice to work through them in study session before bringing them back for approval at the regular meeting. So if we were to switch those, that would probably benefit in 3 or 4 months for sure, from a finance standpoint.
And I think you also had, and in particular with this example, you couldn't, if we wanted to be able to divide up action items and study session, you wouldn't have been able to bring this as an action item at the beginning of September. It wasn't until now, right? So-
Exactly, yep.
And so this also would give us a little more flexibility to decide whether or not we needed a study session.
We could,
Because we
right.
wouldn't have action items that we had to come to the table for. So if there were times, again, that we didn't feel like we needed that study session,
I think that would be great. I have to say, for years and years and years, we did not. We had study sessions as needed, depending on what was going on in the district. We did not schedule them just routinely every single month. They were on an as-need basis, and it worked well. It worked well. You know, the more things that you plan, the more you can fill them up, you know, the more, so maybe that's a good.
might be a way to think about it. Now, in December, of course, we'd just have the one meeting anyway, so that would just be a business meeting or a regular meeting. But that would be something that, as an administrative team, we could work with and try and work on just scheduling, to the best of our ability, just scheduling those action items during a regular meeting to give more flexibility. There will be times, I'm certain of it, that we won't be able to do that, but we would make that a priority as best we could.
Well, what if we tried, just reverse them, keep them on Thursdays, and relook at the schedule when the conferences are coming, and either just don't have a study session that night, or to change that to another day, and see how that works with everybody's schedule. Anybody open to that?
Do we know about Mike at all?
The one thing he told me is that he would prefer to keep, he just talked about Thursdays, and he'd prefer to keep
Keep them on Thursdays?
keep them on Thursdays, was his preference. I didn't talk to him about second and fourth, switching those.
I can't see anybody
Would
why
care.
why that would be an issue.
Okay.
And there's 5 of us here at the table who think it's not an issue, so it's not an issue. I mean, really, to switch them. So is there some consensus around that? Switch them, keep them on Thursdays, relook at the calendar, see how it hits up with conference time, and adjust accordingly. Are you good with that?
Okay, and we're talking about this for starting next school year, right? 1920?
Well, it's the spring conferences that are problematic, and spring is far enough out. Can we look at that?
Couldn't we redo it as of January 1st at our reorganization meeting?
Right, that's what I was
Okay.
thinking, is to,
Okay.
I mean, why not change, if we're going to change it?
by way,
We vote on all that stuff in January anyway, let's just do it.
Okay.
My hope was for Monday, so Mondays just sound like they're out, because like Lynn, I just think Mondays are the easiest day to have meetings. So,
Not hearing any consensus on
I know,
Mondays.
I hear no consensus on Mondays either, so.
All right, are we good with your discussion? Okay. All right, we have to approve the preliminary 2018 payable 2019 levy. Now, having said that, most of us were at your presentation, so I would say the elevator talk synopsis would be perfect. It's
agree.
hardly a change, it's a tiny little percent.
You're right, I was just, any remark that I could make wouldn't have been good, so I'm just going to go for it.
Just saying.
No, you're right, absolutely. So the school board is required to certify the prelim levy by the end of September. And so that's why we're here tonight. Our recommendation, administration's recommendation is to certify the max. And then where we would go from here is I will print, and then I may have to have the board clerk sign a document that I need to get to the home county auditor, so in our case, Washington County Auditor, and then to MDE by the end of the month. And then that amount will go on the preliminary tax statements that our taxpayers receive in November.
So you need me to come in to the office tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Okay, okay, all right. I correct you.
And then the amount may change. In our case, I don't see it changing significantly outside of the operating levy coming up before December 13th and the truth and taxation presentation, but just important for our taxpayers to know that the amount on their preliminary tax statement in November may change, and certainly would change if the referendum or the levy in November, on the November ballot was successful. So I will not go over the details of the line items. I would like to clear up confusion from the Finance Committee meeting earlier on tonight related to the referendum amount. So I had a chance to do some thinking on that, and really, there's just so much more that goes into it. So our referendum amount, as it currently sits, is $744 per adjusted pupil unit, which is a fancy way of counting students. Now, the comment was, or the question was asked, which is an easy question to answer, would that amount change if we added or went down student count, right? So the answer to that question is yes, all things considered and created equal, right? So we have a referendum market value, and then you take that, divide it up, and multiply it by the 744 times our student count. So if the student count changes, the total amount will change. Now, why it's not as simple as that is it is very possible that the student amount could change by an immaterial amount, and taxes could decrease. If, for example, Adelaide Landing comes in, that's going to increase the referendum market value of our taxing district. And so you combine those two together, and with some other adjustments, that's how you come up with the change. So the one consistent is the $744 per student. And there was some confusion earlier tonight, so I just wanted to do it really quick, clear that up as much as possible, and summarize that. So that being said, the total increase is 1.06%. A very small increase year over year, and we would recommend approval of the max.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving this, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion to approve adjournment, please.
So moved.
Second.